Hello, I'm Annette Young and welcome to the 51%, a show about women reshaping our world. Coming up, how some women in Lebanon are having to make their own sanitary pads as prices of menstrual products rise by almost 500% thanks to the country's financial crisis. Also, I'll be talking to American author and journalist Deborah Copaken about her latest book, Ladyparts, on how the toll of life in modern-day America played havoc with both her health and her body. And the trials and tribulations of filming a TV drama in the Central African Republic, which is forcing its viewers to confront the issue of sexual violence. But first, and the economic crisis in Lebanon has led to an extraordinary rise in the price of sanitary products. No longer able to afford pads, many women are now being forced to make their own using baby nappies or rags. Claire Rush tells us more about the intensifying period poverty in the country.
Amid Lebanon's sky-high inflation, Shireen, 28 years old, is on a desperate hunt for affordable menstrual products.
How much did these pads cost?
Which ones?
These cost 12,500 Lebanese pounds. I can't afford that. I'd rather save the money for my daughter.
€7 for pads, too costly. Instead, Shireen makes her own at home. Izdihar also has to get creative. An employee in a charity shop, she shows how to use cloth or diapers for DIY pads.
I have 3 daughters, and they all get their periods around the same time. So how am I supposed to buy sanitary pads?
The price of pads has more than quadrupled since the onset of Lebanon's financial crisis, plunging many women into period poverty, depriving them of the means to buy basic sanitary products. Rima Ali, a Palestinian refugee, is no stranger to this. The mother of 6 lived in Syria until 9 years ago when the war forced her to flee. As part of a local initiative, she's learning how to sew her own reusable pads.
We really struggled in Syria. Life was difficult because of the war. Some days we didn't have enough money to buy bread, so we'd sort ourselves out. We would cut up our old clothes and use them.
Soaring inflation has left no corner of Lebanon untouched. According to the UN, more than half of the country's population is now living in poverty.
Now, many of us are realising that COVID-19 is not going anywhere soon. In any case, the consequences of this global pandemic will be felt for decades to come. My guest today has been on the show before. The last time was at the height of the first wave as the US economy went into freefall and millions lost their jobs. American author, journalist and photographer Deborah Copaken was one of them and wrote a moving piece for The Atlantic on what it was like to be fired over Zoom. Her latest book, Ladyparts, is to be released in August, and I'm delighted to say that she's here in the studio in person while visiting Paris. Deborah, thank you so much for coming in.
Thanks, Annette, for having me. I really appreciate it.
Now, in terms of this book, Ladyparts, is as much about the unravelling of one's body as it is about the unravelling of middle-class life in America. At what point did you decide to sit down and say, OK, I'm now going to write a book about this?
So it all happened in the shower, actually. I was in the shower and I was looking down at the scars all over my body. I've had a hysterectomy, I've had a trachelectomy. I nearly died from vaginal cuff dehiscence. And my body is covered. And I thought to myself, these scars are not just my scars, they are America's scars, because none of this had to happen. Sexism in medicine and the American economy, which gives us no health care, so we spend so much of our money on health care. Sexist medicine, which should have had my cervix out during the hysterectomy, but told me bunk science that made me have 2 8-hour operations instead of 1, and then a near death from a bleed out from something called vaginal cuff dehiscence, which I'd never heard of. So here in construct, here in confluence were the bodily scars and the scars of America on the female body. And I thought, okay, this is a good way of framing a book. So each section of the book, before it was each chapter, now each section of the book has the name of a body part that either failed me or was excised from my body.
It's also an anthem to middle-aged womanhood. And you talk openly about your sex life, and that's something that a lot of people are very uncomfortable to talk about, aren't they, openly, about the fact that middle-aged women actually have sex and that they enjoy sex.
Well, I'm here in France, right? I arrived yesterday, and the first thing I notice about France, as usual, is middle-aged women, older women are sexy. They're out there, they look beautiful, they're walking down the street, they're strutting, they're not afraid to show that they are still in middle age and older age sexually viable. In America, it's slightly different. American women who are middle-aged are shunned from the workplace. They are hidden from society because they're shunned from the workplace. And listen, when I got divorced from a 20-year marriage, I wasn't going to become a nun. And I don't think any of us should be. And in fact, what I have learned in the course of my life and doing this book is sex is healthy. And we need to start talking about it as a health issue. Having sexual relations releases oxytocin. Oxytocin in the bloodstream is good for your body.
Now, each chapter is dedicated to a part of your body. Why did you decide to structure the book as in that way?
So each part of the book is structured by a body part because it wasn't just the body part. So for example, uterus, the second chapter of the book talks about my hysterectomy. But at the same time that I had my hysterectomy, literally within hours, my teenage daughter, got her period for the first time, and my surrogate mother, Nora Ephron, who is the filmmaker, died on the same day. And so this confluence of sort of losing my surrogate mother, having my daughter become a woman, and me losing my uterus all in the same day spoke to me on a metaphoric level. At the same time, for example, heart. My heart went on the fritz. I was wearing a Holter monitor, which if you've never seen one, you have little tabs all over your chest and a little thing there that dings and whistles. And I was going on Tinder dates at the same time that I'm wearing this heart monitor. So I have a joke in the book where some man asked me to give him a naked selfie, and I was like, okay, I'll give you a naked selfie with all these things all over my body, and let's see if you actually write back. Nope.
What do you want the reader to take away from the book, Deborah?
It really depends if we're talking about an American reader or a European reader or a worldwide reader. I would like the world that's not America to know what we're dealing with in America, which is a lack of health care and how it plays out on the body and how it's causing debt, destruction, and in some cases, death. And we saw that with COVID, right? We saw that those who didn't have money died at a higher rate than those who had money and had protection, right? But I would like American women, and particularly American politicians, to read this and say, oh my God, we are failing women. We are failing American women. And the personal is political. Well, I want the politics to follow and help us to not die anymore.
Deborah, I'm really sorry. We're going to have to leave it there. But at this point, this is the book, people. I've read it. It is a great read. Thank you so much for coming in, Deborah.
Thank you for having me, Annette. It's really great to be here again.
And finally, it's a first in the Central African Republic, a police TV drama shot entirely in its capital, Bangui. It's also highlighting the problem of sexual violence within the community. And in a country still torn apart by conflict and poverty, making a TV show is no easy task, as our team on the ground found out.
In the suburbs of Bangui, a kidnapping scene that these actors repeat again and again. We're on the set of Bangui Special Unit, the first police TV drama in the Central African Republic. The central theme is violence against women, a first on the continent. In front of the camera that day, Valentina films an important scene that takes place during the last civil war. The young actress plays the main character of the series, Régine, an inspector tormented by the conflict and determined to put sex offenders in prison.
This is the last scene of the series, this flashback to my life, when the anti-Balakas, the rebels and all, when they come, the first thing they do is loot and rape. And since no one else is talking about it, it's really important for us to do so.
Beninese filmmaker Elvira Jamonsi was inspired by a real Central African police unit, but also by her favorite American series, which feature a dozen characters, just like Inspector Régine.
It's part of her story, her background. Her sister was kidnapped and raped in front of her.
It took Elvire years of preparation to accomplish this unprecedented project in the CAR. Just as the country was torn once again by violence, she raised €500,000 with the help of the European Union and French-speaking initiatives to make the first season happen. After several weeks of filming, she's relieved.
With the situation in the country, it was not sure at all that we'd manage. Everyone said it was madness, and I said to myself, can I really do it?
The final scene is over, and Elvire drives to another suburb to discover the first pictures of the day's shoot.
Seeing these pictures on the screen, it's really amazing.
The drama is being edited by Guy Thierry, the technical director. He's convinced the show will be a success.
It's going to trigger something, I think. People will be surprised to see the images. We did a good job anyway.
Anticipation is running high ahead of the launch. The show should be completed by the end of the year and broadcast in 2022.
And that's it for now. You can also connect with us via our Facebook page, that of course being France24.51%, or do send us a tweet at _51%. Now, we'll be taking a break over the European summer and we'll be back at the end of August with a brand new series. So until then, bye for now.